Hello, everybody, and welcome to an episode of Wizard 101 that is not a part of the Daniel C. Strider playlist. This will be on its own separate playlist. It'll be world reviews for Wizard 101 or something along those lines. I haven't fully decided what the name will be yet, but we'll figure out when we get there. In this episode, which I do not think will be too long, or episode, I'm sorry. In this video, which will be episodic, I presume, I will be going over my opinions on the worlds of Wizard 101. And to start, I will be doing, obviously, the first world, Wizard City. I'm not going to be, looking around everything and, looking at little nooks and crannies about things. I'm gonna, for the most part, just chill in Ravenwood. I probably won't be moving around too much. I'm gonna chill out over here by Ivan, perhaps, and just talk for a little bit. I don't really feel the need to go above and beyond with any of my gameplay for this episode, because it really is just a commentary video at this point. I guess to start off, I want to say that this is the main hub world, which I think is very obvious. If you go on any of the bigger realms, you can see that this world is definitely the main hub world. You can find popular areas in other worlds as well, but specifically every world's version of the Commons. However, no world is as populated as Wizard City is. And that can make it a little hectic at times, especially, you can see, I don't have a bad PC by any means. And if you're going through Wizard City on a very dense server, you're gonna have some lag. Which, the reason I bring this up is because I want to separate my critiques on Wizard 101 and my critiques on Wizard City. So, there are certain things I want to just get out of the way, not as critiques to Wizard City because of how they are affected by Wizard 101. Because it's the hub world, you're gonna have a lot more to do right off the bat, because they gotta teach you how to do all the stuff that you need to learn. Fishing, crafting, jewel crafting, astrology, Gravalium order, all that stuff. Photomancy, planting. I might have already said it, I can't remember already. But all that stuff has to be jam-packed into Wizard City, because it doesn't make too much sense for them to be elsewhere. I mean, you can make arguments that it can, but to get people involved, it's really good to put them in this first world. So, that is not a criticism of Wizard City, that's just an overall critique of Wizard 101 and how they handle Wizard City being the hub world. And I think that's important to focus on, because it's not Wizard City's fault. One thing I want to look at, actually, though, is the graphics of Wizard City. I like the way Wizard City looks. However, I personally am a fan of how it used to look, which I'll show you right now how it used to look with the classic mode, which I'm glad that they added this. Because every once in a while, if it's not going to take too long, every once in a while, I like to look at old Wizard 101 and how it looked. Because it really did look much different. I mean, this is... The characters look, out of place. Almost, just because of the way that they've been updated. But it's much more rigid than it used to be. And I prefer the rigidness to the new softer version. However, obviously the softer version is more visually appealing from a wider scale. So on that front, Wizard City does a really good job. The only time that the graphics can get a little dodgy, even for my PC, is on when you're in Firecat Alley, which I don't feel the need to go there and show anyone, but if you look back in the episodes where I am in Firecat Alley, you can see when I first get into Firecat Alley, it is a little dodgy. So that is, you know, it shouldn't be that difficult to run Firecat Alley. I think they made it too graphically demanding, and not for the PC itself, but rather the servers. There are some games where it doesn't matter how good your PC is. I'm sure if you had a mega PC, like NASA couldn't even make a better one, that you could run certain games. But there are certain very bad games that, regardless of how good your GPU is and how good your PC is, they're like, oh, you don't have the correct graphics card, we can't run this properly. Doesn't matter how good it is. So, I just think that's something to be put in there. Shouldn't have any issues from a graphics standpoint. Another thing that I think Wizard City does really well is its music, which is specifically why I wanted to stay in Ravenwood. To have this music, this relaxing music, just in the background, and that's one thing I think they did really well in Wizard City, is the music always fits where you are. It can get a little tedious at times, and monotonous, and repetitive. However, tedious and monotonous are not necessarily the proper words I was looking for. However, with how repetitive it can be, it can get really annoying if you're grinding somewhere. Not because you want to grind, but rather you have a collect quest and you're not getting the item that you're looking for. So that can make it very boring to listen to the same music. Layout, I like the 3 streets on in Old Town, and I like how they're like altitude wise higher or lower than each other respectively. I don't know why I like that. I just think it's really cool how they're not directly right next to each other. However, it does beg the question, how are the 2 dark caves, the one in Firecat Alley, the one in Cyclops Lane, connected? I don't really know how they're connected, and why there is a second dark cave specific to Triton Avenue. I do not like that. For newer players, I think that it might be a little confusing if you're not paying attention, really. Which, with this giant compass that we have down here, it shouldn't really be an issue. But I find that it could be an issue for some newer players, should they, for whatever reason, have a glitch with the compass. Unicorn Way, I do not like. From a layout standpoint, that Unicorn Way needs the teleporters more than anywhere else in Wizard City, and it's the one place that didn't get it. Colossus Boulevard and the 3 streets have the teleporters. Now, beyond layout, this isn't supposed to be super in-depth, just a very casual thought process about how I view Wizard City. The story of Wizard City can kind of get muddled in with the fact that you're a student. And I think this is something that Wizard City fails at very, very poorly. Going on from Wizard City, I think the story gets much better. But it wasn't building up Krokotopia, in my opinion, as much as it probably should. I feel like Krokotopia needed to be built up more than it actually was. However, that's my opinion. I also find that they tried too much to make this Harry Potter, which obviously the success of this game coincides, in my understanding, you know, causation and correlation are obviously not the same thing, but I think the popularity of the Harry Potter movies helped Wizard 101 get to the height that it did. Obviously, this game is no longer at its heights. It's not a dying game, but it's no longer at the height that it once was. And that's okay. You know, it doesn't need to be the most popular MMO ever. However, it's important to note, in my opinion, that they did try very hard to be Harry Potter, where you are fighting, you're a young wizard that is, you know, from a place where magic isn't really believed in. There's an old wizard with an owl. That's a common trope, old wizard with an owl. Obviously, this is like the hero's tale, but you're you're chosen you're the chosen one. You're special. Um, you're gifted in magic more than anyone else is. Um, and you're trying to fight this estranged wizard who's just gone rogue. Granted, Malastare has good reason. Voldemort does not. Well, relatively speaking, Malastare has good reason, but it doesn't really meld together like Harry Potter's does, because there's just something different about Harry Potter. Harry Potter himself is what I don't mean to compare the two, but Harry Potter has character traits. He's has flaws. All of this. Your character in Wizard 101, and it feels this way in Wizard City in particular, is incapable of making mistakes. Not that you necessarily make mistakes elsewhere, but you are not seen as like this prodigal child like you are in Wizard City. I think from a storytelling standpoint, this Harry Potter vibe, along with the poor build up for Krokotopia, it doesn't really have a good Wizard City climax. When you fight Lord Nightshade, it almost feels anticlimactic. Like he's just some big hulking dummy. And I remember when I was young, I thought that you were going to Krokotopia to fight Malastare right then and there. And I actually remember we had this desk in my basement that I would sit at with this black chair that had like this fabric on it, and it wasn't very well lit. You had a computer on the ground and the monitor in front of you, and I would get super invested. I had the phone, the landline next to me, and I would call my buddy Luke to see if he wanted to play. And after I beat Lord Nightshade, I was like, is that the end of the game? And then I found out you were going to Krokotopia. And I thought that's where you caught Malastare. So I was rushing through, and everything in there are little hints, the Order of the Fang, little bits about Krokotopia that you hear prior to getting to Krokotopia itself. And once you're in Krokotopia, that vibe isn't there. That it was hinted at well, in my opinion. Obviously, they're not hiding that you're going to Krokotopia, but the build-up and hype for it isn't really there, like I think it is for other worlds. And we'll get to that when we get to those worlds. But from a Wizard City to Krakatopia standpoint, I don't think the hype and build-up is there from the story. That's really all I have to say about Wizard City. I don't want this video to go on too much longer. It's already about 16 minutes long. I don't really have a problem with the enemies that you fight in Wizard City. Obviously, as I stated at the beginning, this is a starter world, so it makes sense for it to be a little easy at times and forgiving. However, something I do like is that you can lose. And I'm no formal Phantom, but I'm an experienced Wizard 101 player. I lost a couple times just because of poor deck planning, poor decks in general. So it could really just I do like that, how it can be unforgiving. So that's my general overview on Wizard City. Thank you for watching, and have a great night.